Hello out there, my name is Laolu Akonde and you are on to Inside Sources. But first, here is my take for the day entitled, Who Will Tell the President Part 6. Who will tell the President that from the fight against corruption, Nigeria can only hide, we can't run. Why? Because Nigeria must win that fight and we must drastically reduce the problem of corruption in our country. We must. Two important things happened this last week, reminding us that corruption is the big elephant in the room. The first one. Who will tell the president that this week Nigeria was again ranked very low in the Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International? Who will tell the president that Nigeria moving from 25% in the last ranking in 2023 to 26 points in 2024 is nothing to cheer about because we are still failing the corruption test big time? And the major weaknesses highlighted in this 2024 report on Nigeria include judicial corruption, state capture, nepotism, oil theft, subsidy fraud, corruption in the power sector, corruption in the public procurement, tax evasion, selective tax waivers, lack of political integrity, continuous corruption, wasteful expenditures in the security sector and elsewhere, shrinking civil space, democratic decline, and the opaqueness in our public institutions. These are some of the problems of corruption cited in that report. The other thing that happened this week, who will tell the president that this same week, Premium Times is also reporting, and I quote what they said, some senators from the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund received $1,000 as appreciation money from poorly funded universities. We hope the president will be told that a month earlier, Premium Times had warned all of us, and I quote again, that some lawmakers are using intimidation and threats to force the heads of the universities to pay 8 million naira each to approve their allocations in the 2025 budget. That Premium Times investigation, they continued, and I quote, revealed that the extortion scheme involves senators and members of the House of Representatives. Now, Mr. President, all of these aren't new. They didn't start today, certainly, but they are now being perpetrated under your watch as well. I'd like to say this. I don't agree with those who say that Mr. President, that's President Tinubu, doesn't care about corruption. Maybe they probably missed what the president said in China last year. Speaking to Nigerians in that country after an official visit, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, and I quote him, that China is a very disciplined society and we have to be disciplined too. Without discipline and commitment, we cannot build a nation that is respected everywhere in the world. End of quote. But who will tell the president that if he doesn't have the courage to steer corruption in Nigeria down, eyeball to eyeball, why is he talking to Nigerians about discipline in China? Let us quote him again. I quote, without discipline, we cannot build a nation that is respected everywhere in the world. Unquote. Who will tell the president that all the corruption that is now going on under his watch amount to gross indiscipline? But we must give him some kudos because President Tinubu at least did not return a suspended minister who was accused of corruption, unlike some past presidents who would have tried to conceal the matter and preserve such a minister in office despite proven financial malfeasance. But who will tell the president that he must do more and that there is no reason why he wouldn't do better than past presidents in fighting corruption if he actually meant what he said to Nigerians in China about indiscipline? Who will tell the president that to remove subsidy is indeed bold, but to prove his naysayers wrong and draw a line in the sand against corruption is far bolder and is one thing that could certainly cure our nation significantly. and enshrine his name in the golden annals of our history. That is if President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will find the nobility and the courage to do it. We should not grow weary in well-doing. That is what the good book says. And so let us make that point again. Like President Buhari rightly said, if we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, as we continue the conversation on the future of Nigeria, I have with me a young Nigerian up-and-doing investigative journalist, Mr. Fisayo Soyombo, who had worked with the Cable Sahara Reporters and is now the founder and the editor-in-chief of Foundation for Investigative Journalism, where he has done a lot of tremendous work. Mr. Fisayo, welcome back to Inside Sources.
Thank you, Mr. Akande. Good to be here.
All right, good. I want to ask you today the main question that I normally ask my guests. If you look at where the country is today, in your own understanding, are we on course to becoming a great country that all of us, virtually agree is the destiny of our country?
I think the answer is clear. There's only one answer, and that's no. You look at how people feel. You look at the mood in the country. You ask yourself what citizens expect the government to do for them. What is the standard, the minimum standard of living, that the public should have? Food, shelter, clothing, transportation. Just the basics. We are not talking about the comfort of life, just the basics, the minimum essentials. Do the people have them? Can people feed? Can people clothe themselves? Many of the people have a good place to lay their head at the end of the day? The answers are no, and that means that looking at the enormity of the human and material resources that we have, that shouldn't be our lot as a country. We are blessed with resources. We're blessed also with brilliant people. The irony is that, the people in government, it's not like they're dull. It's not like they are non-entities. Many of them are smart. Many of the people who have left this country have stolen, have plundered our wealth, but you have to be smart to steal. People think that you don't have to be smart to steal. If you can be smart enough to steal, then you can be smart enough to govern. So we have brilliant people in this country who have occupied leadership positions. Not all of them, of course, majority. You have some people, you look at them and you wonder how they made it into government, But we have the human resource, we have the natural resource, and we are still fumbling as a country.
So sad, and that's what seems to be the dilemma, And in my view, Fisayo, I think we have quite a few fundamental challenges, but I think corruption is high up in some of those fundamental problems. I also think that we need to certainly find a way to restructure the country politically. We have, in my view, we have a system where the states have become something else. We have a situation where the local governments are no longer existing. So there are questions around, the structure of our federation. But I think that the problem of corruption is an equally serious challenge, if not even much more a bigger challenge. What's your own perspective about the place of corruption? And I'm asking you this question because you have done quite a lot of work, that has, taken the issue of corruption, not just from public, even to, not just from leaders, but even among the people, So what's your take about the depth of corruption in our society?
Okay, first of all, I'll rank corruption as high as incompetence. I think those are our two biggest problems. The fact that, you have people who are in positions and don't want to work, even if they have even if they're brilliant, but they're not really interested in working.
But they are interested in the pie.
Yes. And then you have people who just want to steal, who just go into offices, think people win elections or steal elections, and then the happiness is that, yes, their pockets will be filled up. The depth of corruption, sometimes I think about it and it gives me sleepless nights. Because, and I say this by virtue of the kind of work that I do, the fact that I plant myself in places to experience what the average Nigerian, feels, and I see things that I would say quite a number of Nigerians don't know. And the question is, where exactly do we start from? Where exactly the depth of corruption in this country is unimaginable. There's virtually no agency. There's virtually no agency that you can say is standout and incorruptible. Occasionally, you have individuals who are anti-corruption. For instance, there was a time UI Postgraduate School had a dean that was widely known to detest corruption, and it was all over the world. Don't give anyone bribes here. If anyone gives you a bribe, report. So you can have individuals who are shining lights, but essentially our public institutions are centers of corruption. You in court, you want to print a document, you want to file a case, clerks or court officials are expecting you to grease their hands. In prison, you want to visit an inmate, someone who has been sentenced to prison for corruption. The warders ask you what you want to give before you can gain access. The police keep telling you bail is free. We all know bail is not free. In one example, one of my colleagues wrote a story and then about someone who had paid for a service and did not get it, and the police invited him and they were asking for bribes to free him. Even though they saw the name, Foundation for Investigative Journalism, the police at Alagmo in Lagos invited the reporter and they wanted him to pay bribes to regain his freedom. So it's horrible. To look at Nigerian Customs, for example, that was established primarily to combat smuggling. That agency, people in that agency prepare timetable for smugglers. Oh, the smuggling gang, this group, it's your turn. After this group, then it's your turn, then your turn. That's the agency that was set up to fight smuggling. Wow. That's the agency that it's your turn, it's your turn, it's your turn. So next week, it's your turn. Next month, it's your turn. Wow. Look, there was a time we had the challenge of building collapses every now and then. But there's a government agency, in Lagos, for instance, that should approve your plan. You can't have, if buildings collapse and the problem is structural, someone approved it, some office approved it. People build and they come to me and they say, look, we are just waiting for approval and they're asking for money to grease our palms. People want to build their own houses and then the plan from the government, you have to grease palms to get to. There's virtually nothing that gets done in this country as smoothly and as quickly as it should without corruption. And it's terrible. It's a big problem.
Interesting. So I mean, I share that view, and in my own experience, I think it goes. Yeah, I mean, it's quite prevalent, in the public sector, but it goes even to the private sector, and it goes even to the life of the ordinary people, And I think, of course, the responsibility is still that of leadership, clearly, because the people in leadership are the ones that set the standard that others have to follow. So I want to take it from some of the work that you've done, just to give us an update. One of your latest work is actually to try and break into the smuggling ring in Ogun State, particularly Diroko, and then, maybe even Badagry too. What's the situation today?
There's no update other than if they want to smuggle and I tweet before they move, then the work can't happen on that day. So they go back. If they've been exposed, then they lose some days and then they re-strategize and they go again. So maybe they try to do it quietly, hoping that I don't get to know.
Oh, it's you that, okay. I thought they were trying to beat the system.
There are smugglers who try to beat the system. Those are the ones who get caught when customs comes publicly to announce that we see so and so. So those are the people who try to beat the system. But there are those who are in bed with the system, and those ones, I mean, they don't try to beat the system anymore. They then try to beat the journalists, expose them. I had a funny scenario. Some guys wanted to smuggle and they came to me and they said, so and so person in customs said, you go and meet Fisaya. If Fisaya lets you smuggle, then you have to go. Like, you know the job that I do. I don't have any favorites. The job is about the public interest. It's about supporting agriculture. You know, the people in those zones complain that government has abandoned them. Then that's why they take to smuggling. But that's not the solution. We have to get the government to pay you attention. But you can't. Smugglers cannot be richer than farmers. We talk about corruption. I have farmers, people who've gone into farming from that zone, who ask me, so convince me that I made the right choice to have gone to school or to have gone into agriculture and not smuggling. So if you look at the richest smuggler in that zone is a primary school dropout. Invite him to this program, he can't speak for 1 minute. It's a primary school dropout, but he controls billions. And you know, so we can't continue with that kind of system. So when they came and they said, look, customs said that we have to get permission from you. If it gets to me, I have to write it. That's my job. So update-wise,
tell us. Sorry for a bit. Tell us more about that. That is quite. Is it not mind-boggling that the customs agency? You know, what happened? Who went to them? And you know, can you give us a bit more detail on that?
So someone wanted to smuggle.
Okay.
They gave a timetable. I think it was third on the list.
So somebody wanted to do it with the system.
Because there are different smuggling groups, there are different smuggling gangs. So one gang wanted to move. The head of the gang then came to say, look, customs said I'm number 3 on the list, but the first 2 have to go. So we should get your permission so that they can move. Then it will be my turn. I don't have to say, I'm just a citizen. I'm just a bloody journalist.
That they should come to you.
Oh, yes.
So that we can
So that I then don't write about it.
Oh, okay.
So if I don't tweet about it, nobody gets to know it most. Because really, when I tweet about it, then it circulates and they're like, oh, so eyes are on us now.
So they have to do something about it.
Yes. So the last tweet, they got calls from Abuja saying no bag of rice was crossed. You can see, we are now in the public eye. So they then said, you have to go and meet that journalist so that he doesn't tweet about it, he lets you do. And it was easy for me to do because,
of course,
one gang will go to another, will go to customs and say, we've bribed that journalist, we have the... I've never taken a kobo from anyone to report anything, which means if it's true and it gets to me, then I have to write about it. In terms of updates, you see, there can't be updates because the smugglers are in bed with customs. The most senior people in customs are close to power at the federal level. So it's not just the smugglers. It's not the big smugglers. It's not the foot soldiers of the biggest smugglers. It's also about the people in customs who are high up there, who in turn are very close to the highest people in the land. So how then can you have an update? The House of Representatives in December said they were going to probe, customs and their activities in that region. They announced.
As a result of some work that you did?
As a result of some of the work that I did, and also as a result of the torture of 2 alleged informants by a customs officer and a soldier.
They tortured?
Yes, they tortured them, believing that they maybe were recording a video and they were going to pass to me. Yes, and so on those 2 accounts. But more than a month later, nothing has happened.
From the house?
From the house. That probe has been killed. As a matter of fact, a platform reported the house saying customs has overshot the revenue projection. So it's then about revenue, what has been projected. In any case, customs hasn't done anything special. It's just because of the fall in the value of the naira against the dollar and how much more people need to pay to import stuff in the country. It's not like customs as an agency has done anything spectacular. So there can't be updates until, the very top. Maybe at some point in the interview, like you said, we'll talk about corruption and what we can do to stop it when we get there. But until the very top is interested, nothing can change it.
Can move. Well, I mean, that's a bit of update. So after that big expose that you did on the smuggling situation, the House of Reps, said they are going to do a probe. But this is February. Maybe they are still in the process of doing it. So that's something.
They are not interested in the probe any longer.
To say, well, so now we are talking about it, and they are listening. It would be good to know what is their view about it. And I understand also too. I mean, I've been in government. I understand how this thing works. I understand that if, like you said, if the people at the very top, if they are not interested in dealing with it, and I've made this point myself in some of my take that, look, if we don't fight corruption frontally, then we're not serious, about fighting corruption. I think anyone that becomes the president of this country should be bold enough. Even if you are talking about interest, look, if you're president, you're president. You call the shots. You can say that, okay, let's draw the line from this date and then let's go forward. And it's my own view that the people that lead us, they hold us that, considering the depth of the problem of corruption, it is very corrosive. It distorts every other thing. I'll give you an example. So since the last time that we talked about corruption, quite a few people have called from Idiroko. Some of the leaders have called and said that, look, I mean, let's talk to this Fisayo guy. The people that are here don't have a choice. The ordinary people, they have no jobs. There are no infrastructure. There are no social services. The only game in town in that part of the state, I hope I got the name right, is smuggling. And that broke my heart that so the people in those places have been subjected, condemned to corruption. What do you think about that?
The people who called are even nice. Every time I tweet about smuggling, I get threats. 2 days ago, a lot of comments on my Facebook wall. Your days are numbered. We will get you. Your time will be up soon. But the real issue is that if the government has abandoned those people, then you don't solve a problem by creating another. So they have traditional rulers who get who get paid by the smugglers. And so for them, their pockets get filled. There's no point. You have to make a case for your people to the government. You have lawmakers from that region. So
in the assembly, in the state, in the federal.
Yes. So that's what you should do, to find a way to get the attention of the government to look at those, not to say, because the government has abandoned us, then we have to smuggle. People treat smuggling as just transporting goods and services from one point to another, through the back door. It's a lot more than that. Nobody checks what they put in these cars. No, there is no check. There is no check. What they put in these trucks, nobody checks them. They claim bags of rice, chicken, turkey, but of course, they add other things. When they want to move in guns, arms, and ammunition, it's the same routes.
And you are saying that, so this is talking about those who are embedded with people that are supposed to...
Yes. So when you say, the government has abandoned us, that's no. Light arms and ammunition enter the country through that border. Is one of the main entry points for arms and ammunition, just because smugglers are moving things in and nobody checks them.
And you're sure of that?
It's not the first time that I've said it. It's not the first time. One of the person who tried to bring that in 2022 was arrested. So let customs come and explain why they freed him.
Okay. So what about the one about the child sales?
The orphanage home that sold babies.
What's the progress on that?
Yeah,
can you first of all give our audience a summary? Yeah.
Summary. I got to know that an orphanage home would charge huge sums of money to give kids to people who needed them. And so what I did was track the orphanage home for 19 months. Went in with a woman as though I needed a child, and
this was where?
Months,
from where
this
to where?
Was from 20. I tracked them from 2021.
I mean, where?
Where? So the orphanage home had 4 outlets in Lagos and 1 in Anambra. I think 1 in another state as well. So from Lagos, they diverted us to Anambra.
Okay.
And then we got the baby.
So you got the baby in Anambra.
In Anambra. The baby turned 2, by the way, on February 6th.
And the baby is still with NAPTIP.
So now NAPTIP has handed the baby to the Ministry of the Youth Ministry in Lagos. And the ministry let me see the baby.
That's the Lagos State Ministry of Youth.
Yes, on our second birthday last week. So they sold me a baby. And then 2 million naira. And I came back with it.
Interesting. Thank you so much for the work that you do. It's important that we keep an eye on this corruption thing because it has a way that it distorts, society, and that's why I'm very, very passionate about it and intend to keep raising the voices. We need our political leaders, especially Mr. President, to pay attention and to say that, look, we are drawing the line. That look, from here, no more. And we continue to nudge him in that direction because, after all, now he's the president. There's nothing left for him to achieve that he has not achieved. It's about his legacy. And that's why we will be talking about the stuff. And, hey, he has more than 2 years to prove to us that he can do it. Thank you so much, Mr. Fisayo Shiyome, for your work, and thank you for coming to Inside Sources again.
Thank you for inviting me.
Inside Sources, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. In this segment, we will have a conversation as usual on the future of Nigeria. And today, joining me in that conversation, I have a young but very prominent Nigerian politician, somebody who was there when the merger that produced APC took place in 2014, 2015, went on to become the youth leader of the party and member of the board of trustees, and eventually actually became a senior special assistant to the president in the last presidential administration of President Buhari. I'd like to welcome to Inside Sources, Barrister Ishmael Ahmed. My brother.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Inside Sources.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Yes, sir.
And I can see that your grade is coming up more and more.
I'm no longer a youth. I'm no longer a young person. I'm a young elder.
That is very true.
Yes, so I moved away from being a youth.
Very, very true. Thank you for coming. So we normally start the conversation around the future of the country to say that if you were to take a view of where we are now, are we moving in the direction that will lead us to that great country that all of us practically agree is the destiny of Nigeria?
Well, I think that is debatable generally. I think every administration that comes tries to prioritize certain agendas that it believes would carry it to the promised land. But I think what we have failed to do as a country in general, not only governments or parties,
right,
is we have been unable rather to communicate effectively to younger generations or generations upcoming or to the general public in its entirety what that destination would look like. We have failed to create an image of what the Nigeria of our dreams would be like. So we keep changing what that image should be. Yeah, so that image, the vision has not been clearly communicated to the people. So there's nothing people are looking up to other than their personal, achievements or successes or freedom, and that could be whatever.
Very important point.
Yeah. So that has not been clearly communicated by the country in general, by anyone else, and I think there has been fits and starts. You're looking back at history, by different governments, starting from the First Republic through military juntas of different kinds, Vision 2010, there were all these kind of things. But yet, it was just a vision of different aspects of where the country should be, but there is no image of what a Nigerian dream should be, or what a person should aspire to be. Or, you meet young people and they will tell you, what do I study today in Nigeria? In the universities or wherever, or polytechnics, to be what I want to be. What is it that you are looking forward to be? What is it that would give you this job satisfaction or feeling of achievement, at a certain age? And at what age would you be able to achieve that? So I think as a country, we have not been able to clearly communicate that. So it's difficult for different administrations to clearly say, this is where we are heading to. Every administration comes, brings out certain agendas and say, this is where we are going, this is where we want to go, to be able to free this country from corruption, because those are the major issues, to free this country from corruption, from poverty, from lack of education, from most of the social vices that we see, or lack of the issue of insecurity and stuff like that. But those are major issues that come in once in a while, and they become an issue at a particular point in time, and sometimes they become perennial, which means they keep going on for quite some time. And then every government says that, okay, it's momentous, we want to deal with this particular issue at this point in time. But the larger picture and the image of where we are going in the next 10 years, in the next 50 years, or in the next 100 years, or the future generation, what they should be aspired to be, or even communicate that Nigeria in 20 years would be so economy. So young people are advised to study this.
So let's take it from there. So what do you think that vision should be?
Well, I'm not going to sit down here and presume that I have articulated the vision. I'm working on it. It's something that I'm working on.
Parts of it.
Yeah, I'm working on it. But I think it should be a vision where any government in power, or not government, let me not, because the country is bigger than just its government, right? You have different components, yes.
Governments come and go.
Yeah, so the component parts, the think tanks, the NESD, a lot of people, between social, economy, political, traditional, whatever, have to have some sort of a consensus of where we are going as a people. What do we want to achieve? What is that pursuit of happiness? Let me use the American slogan. What is that pursuit of happiness of an individual, of a family unit, or of a community, a society, a state, a region, a zone, a country? What is that pursuit of happiness? What is that happiness that we are looking for? Is it to be able to secure a job if you go to school? Is it to have a minimum level of literacy for every child? What is it that you want to achieve when you get that literacy, or when you are able to get out of that poverty? So I think we have to be able to articulate that very well. I cannot tell you that I have been able to articulate that. I probably have articulated that for myself, but that is not enough. I'm sure a lot of people have articulated that for themselves. Some want to be doctors because they want to, for whatever reason. I met a young man who told me that he wants to read medicine. I asked him why. Is it, he wants to help people? He said, no, because that's the easiest way to Japan. I couldn't believe it.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Guy gets trained here.
Yeah.
And then how he goes.
And then he said that because that's the easiest way. That's one of the jobs. Is either you do nursing or you do any health related these things. You get it's easy for you to Japan. I was like shocked. I was like, okay. So your ultimate goal is to leave this country? He said, yeah. So I said, you've given up. Right? And, so what I'm saying is that individuals have defined what is and what is not their pursuit of happiness, the definition of happiness. But the country has not been able to do that yet. Maybe because we are still dealing with developmental problems, the ability to be able to unshackle ourselves from the vestiges of all this things that have held us back. Maybe that's what we've been trying to do. Maybe that has been our inability to define what that pursuit of happiness. But I think generally, as a definition of what the dream of a Nigerian should be, who has been brought into this world through no fault of his, of course, or her, I think it should be the ability to be able to secure your life in a way that you'll be able to feed your family, you'll be able to go to a decent job, contribute productively to the country or to the community you live in, and to be able to aspire legitimately within the ambit of the law, to your success of whatever that is, if it is within the law. I think that freedom to achieve that should be available. So what is a fair society is the equality of opportunity, not necessarily the equality of outcome. The equality of outcome is based definitely on so many other factors that you may not control or the state might not control. But the opportunity, the equality of opportunity must be given by the state. And that is education, that is healthcare facilities, that is the basic things, that the freedom to associate, the freedom to do certain things. And I think, all those things are enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and different coded laws and conventions, but it is not... I think
being effectively communicated
to the people on a consistent basis. I think there's a general belief that this is a country where, it's how much you have or who you know that determines what you get at whatever level.
That's a very important point.
Yeah, and I think that is what we have to slowly be able to deal with.
The people who have been responsible for this, and you and I have association with them, especially you because you're a politician.
I am one of them.
but and I'm also associated.
Yes.
So, the people that have led us here, part of the problem is because they are also trying to contest within themselves as politicians. And so they bring up the things that divide us, ethnicity, religion, anything that I can use to get you out of the way so that I can go for it. So I think we have to come to a situation where we have a national consensus on a few things, regardless of party, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of religion, regardless of region, whatever it is that divides us. Like we have a consensus right now, I believe, on rotational presidency. That has become a national consensus, in my view. We can begin to differ on how we calculate it, but at least, we have a national consensus. I said, look, we should rotate presidency between the North and the South. So I think we also need to come to a conclusion, a national consensus on, look, we have to deal with poverty. We have to deal with corruption. We have to bring back public education. We have to bring back public health, make it accessible to the people. Why do you think what is your own view on that kind of having a consensus that goes beyond politics? And is it possible, Ishmael?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it should be. I think every country, and that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, that we need to have, because I said the country is bigger than just its government.
Yeah.
The government happens to be the management of the country.
For a time.
For a time. No, let's say government is continuing. Government is permanent. Those who are in government may be different. They may differ, but government itself is permanent.
Yeah.
But it's not the only stakeholder. Government just happens to be the management body. There are other critical factors within an organization or a society that make it up. And that's what I said, that there needs to be a consensus. Now, that consensus might not necessarily be all-encompassing.
Okay.
Everybody doesn't have to agree.
Okay.
But the elites of a country, and we know every society, right from history, has its own elites.
Yes.
This elitism is not about the ability to drive better cars or live in better houses or be able, no. Elitism, in the real sense of the word, just basically means someone who can legitimately represent other people based on what God has given him or the talent he has been able to acquire.
Yeah.
It could be wealth, it could be education,
the knowledge,
it could be history, it could be a lot of things.
Right.
Even if you look at the scriptures, I'm a Muslim.
Right.
And I know that there's no prophet that God has sent down that he did not give him helpers who are elites in that society. Rich people, educated people, people who know what so people that other people look up to naturally.
Right.
Influencers that become his disciples or his friends that help him propagate that particular religion that he comes with. That means that there is an institutional belief and even a religious belief in elitism. It's not about appropriation of wealth to yourself, or to your family. No, that is the misunderstanding of what elitism is. So it's not necessarily a bad word. It's a representation of the people. So that consensus has to come within that bracket of people, that this is what we need to do as a nation. So there has to be a consensus. I totally agree with you that this country, we are trying to do it in Kano for now, for example, right now as we speak. We said we're just tired of, the older people. They've been given all the opportunities. They've taken too much away from the state. Some of them have been governors. Some of them have been ministers. Some of them, and yet their ambitions, and their squabble between themselves have kept the state down. This is Kano State. If this country is 200 million in population, Kano has 20 million people. That is 10% of the entire population.
That's not a joke.
That is not a joke that anybody should joke with. But it is how you dress that you'll be addressed. Right. So if we go out playing like kids or child's play, and our leaders are playing like child's play, then everybody else from the outside will take a shot at us. And they have no reason to. Right? So we have said, as young people, that we're going to have a consensus conference within a particular generation of 25 to 55.
Fantastic.
To say that this is where we think Kanu should be.
Fantastic.
And it's not necessarily just political, it's everything else.
It's everything else.
You know, we have to have a blueprint.
Everything.
Yes, it's
that's
everything.
That's why I said that it's beyond politics.
It's beyond politics. So it's the critical part of the society, the ulamas, the business community, the politicians, the academia, the intellect, name it. Everybody would have a say so that tomorrow, whatever happens, you know that you have been represented on the table to decide what Kanu should be or should look like, taking into cognizance all the fault lines that you think you may have. Fantastic. So I agree with you that as a nation, the country ought to have a consensus. And they do have consensus on other issues.
Yeah, I mean, on democracy.
On democracy, we sat down, we have a consensus on even this rotation that you talked about.
Exactly.
There was some sort of a consensus.
Exactly. That's
everybody might not have agreed, but there was a consensus. Exactly, it has become a convention, a norm, a national consensus. So there should be a national consensus on other critical aspects that affect other people's lives, not just politics that affects their lives.
Interesting.
So I totally agree.
Very, very, very interesting.
Yes.
You know, so let's bring it home, you know, and there's an issue that I would like you to educate us about, you know. So there is quite a bit of tension politically. You're a politician, that's why I decided to bring it up. Lawyer and politician. You know, that in the North today, there's some kind of pushback, you know, around, you know, the reputation, the image of the president. You know that there is the League of Northern Democrats that was led by, that is being led by Alhaji Shekarau. You know, they met former President Obasanjo, who said, oh, well, why don't you just call it League of Nigerian Democrats instead of League of Northern, you know. But my point is that, can you help tell us what is really happening in the North, you know, regarding the issue? You know, people, I mean, there have been quite some pushback. There was a time CBN was doing some reforms. You say, you know, and then other perceptions of maybe the North has been, you know, treated in a way that wasn't bargained for. Please, I mean, Ishmael, tell us what's going on.
I think it will be presumptuous of me again to say that I know what the North in its entirety is thinking. And I think anybody is just presuming these things and assuming things. I think they are just political platitudes for people to gain some sort of relevance or political currency. You know, to say that that's what the North thinks or this is what the South thinks. I don't think anybody right now has done a proper polling, you know, to come to that definitive conclusion. But I can just give you, you know, and that does not only have to do with this president or that president, that generally in Nigeria we have been dealing with identity politics for a while.
Yeah.
Right? There comes a time once in a while that you have these people that emerge, and regardless of region and religion or ethnicity or creed or customs or consonants for that matter, you know, they become popular all around. It comes once in a while, you know. But the generality of what is happening in politics usually is identity. And that is because this country was formed before it was formed.
Wow.
You know? Right.
I like that. I don't know what to do.
Exactly. So this country, at its beginning, had regions.
Okay. Yeah.
So many of these people, well, a lot of them are still alive. Those people that believed in those regions.
Right.
You know, and they have passed it down to generations that have come after them. So a lot of people believe they're either Northerners or Southerners, Westerners or Easterners. You know, if you go down to the North, people believe they're either House of Fulani or Kanuri or Ibibi or Tiv or Idoma or Ibra, you know. And then if you go down again and again and again, so at every point, so it depends on where you are squabbling for the scarce resources of this country, then where you need to unify yourselves. So, to answer your question, what is happening in northern Nigeria? I don't think it's a pushback against the president from what I have seen. And let me make it clear. I'm not claiming that I have been everywhere. I can speak for the places I have been to, people I have spoken to, I don't think there are a lot of Northerners that support the president vehemently till today.
Okay.
Some people even believe that they are even happy what is happening. That some people from the northern extraction have had opportunities, and so people have those kind of arguments. But I think generally the average northerner or the average southerner in Nigeria believes that whoever is in government matters to him. Right? May not be true,
right?
But he thinks it matters to him because he has been brainwashed to think so.
Right.
And then
you mean that the fact that it comes from his own
exactly. So whatever action that person takes, is interpreted within the prism of whether he's acting against or for a particular region. So, for example, when President Obasanjo moved NPA from the ship house that was built here back to Lagos, logically it makes a lot of sense because there's no water in Abuja, but there was a pushback.
Yeah.
When he wanted to save the new democracy from coup, and he said, every military officer from colonel upwards that have held political position should go. Most of the ones affected were Northerners. The North reacted. Right? Now, fast forward to Yar'Adua, for example. Let's even Buhari. Yar'Adua did not leave much. There are so many actions that Buhari took in interest of the nation, purely innocently, but it was interpreted as a northerner who is taking positions against other parts of the country, right? And yes, maybe some of the words he used may not have helped him in the beginning when he was asked, what is he going to do about Niger Delta? And he said, have you seen the election results? And, they gave me 5% or whatever. So that might not have helped him, but you and I know that he wasn't out to get a particular part of the country.
True.
Yeah, so, but it was interpreted that way in so many ways.
Right.
Babangida, as a northerner, moved the federal capital from Lagos to Abuja. I don't think up till today there are so many people that have forgiven him for that.
Although it wasn't his decision.
No, but he actually, the physical movement, yes. It was Murtala's decision, another northerner.
Right.
The building started during Shagari, another northerner. They moved completely. Happened in 1991 in Babangida, another northerner. So the point is, so it felt as if it was a northern move, as opposed to looking at a Lagos state that is going to get choked up, that had few land places because it was covered mostly by water. Let it be a relief. Exactly. Let it be an economic hub. Let's go to get a place that it can be bigger. Exactly, so that we can keep expanding.
Yes.
Logical argument,
right? But
it was seen as a northern move. So basically what I'm trying to say, Laudu, is that every president would do a particular thing that it would be seen as if he is attacking another region that he does not belong to or he does not come from. Now, I have always said, and this is in informal settings, and this is the first time I'm going to say it on TV.
Okay.
And I might be wrong. I've always said, the Nigerian presidency is almost always about managing interests. It's almost always about managing interests. Your ability to manage an interest of all kinds that you can think of.
Yeah.
Religious interests.
A lot of them contending.
Yes, regional interests, class interests, all kinds of interests. Right? So your ability to manage those interests to the best, to the minimal level of friction that everybody feels included, will determine how successful you are at the end of the day as a head of state or as a president in this country. Largely, that is the case. Now, a lot of people from the north believe that they have put in all they can to get this president out, into government. And, some can argue for whatever reason. But Atiku ran, Kwankwaso ran. Those are both northern politicians, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
They are Nigerian politicians. I don't like calling them northern politicians. Yes, but from the northern extraction.
Right.
That's fine. But yet, Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was able to get 4 states in the North Central, 3 states in the Northwest.
Northwest, and then...
one state in the Northeast.
Enough to actually...
and with enough votes. Kano State alone, we gave Ashwaju 570-something thousand votes. That cleared the difference that Atiku gave us in the whole of the Northeast by winning 5 states.
Oh, wow.
So what I'm saying is that, and now they are saying, okay, are we fully represented? The president can bring out all the list of appointments if that's what worries you, or the list of projects that what worries you, blah, blah, blah. But I think there is a sense of alienation from government, from those people, from some sort of elites in the North that they feel now that cascaded down to the average Northerners. And that happens also in the East. There's also feeling of alienation. Now, the Easterners might not be as vocal as the Northerners because the Easterners were like, well, we didn't vote for him anyway. That's your problem, right?
Yeah.
We brought our guy. You guys said you don't want him, so, you're on your own.
Deal with it.
Deal with it. But ultimately, I think the president is doing his bit. Does he need to do a bit more? Yeah. I expected the president by now, in 2 years of his office, to must have visited at least 2 more states across the country, not necessarily to just commission projects, but even just to move around and see what's going on. Whenever I talk about Kano, people say I'm biased, but that's 10% of the country's population. I think the president ought to have visited Kano. I think even politics aside, that's 10% of the population. I think he ought to have visited Kano. I think he ought to have visited a lot of other places across the country. He has gone to Enugu this year. I like that. He needs to go to a lot more places. He needs to visit more people. He needs to be able to communicate more. He needs to be more inclusive. Not inclusive in terms of governance. I think he has given a lot of people appointments. I don't think that's what matters.
Yeah.
I think people need to know that their representatives have access to the president. They'll be able to speak to him. And I think that once the president does that, I think it's fine. For the policies that he has taken, I don't think it's targeted towards or against any particular region.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. I think he is taking... This is my interpretation of what the president is doing. And I might be absolutely wrong. I probably might even get into trouble for saying this, right? But my interpretation of what the president is doing in terms of policies is that the can has been pushed down the road for so long.
Yeah.
And he believes that somebody has to take a decision for the country to deal with it. Now, is it politically popular? It might not be. Because change as drastic as this is dislocating a lot of people. And not only the upper class that a lot of people think. Because the argument before the removal of subsidies is that people who drive 50 cars or 5 cars, they take jeeps. Those people are still driving their cars.
Yeah. Because it's not them.
Because it is not them. Because a person that drives a 200 million naira car is not going to stop driving it because his fuel money has just suddenly jumped from 50,000 to 200,000. He's going to put it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to him. What matters is the person that was driving
his
talent.
Yeah. Exactly. His Corolla.
That is the person that will stop driving because now his fuel money has gone from 12,000 to 50,000. That's the person that cannot afford it, right? So the argument then was that, okay, let's take it out, blah, blah, blah. Yes, subsidy was draining the country. And it was subsidy not only on PMS, it was subsidy on dollar as well. For every dollar you spend outside the country, it's a subsidized dollar, at that time, because at 200 naira, the government, the bank, probably CBN is paying the difference, in terms of the economy. So everybody thought it was the people who are traveling out, the people who are driving big cars that were just enjoying it. Yes, they were enjoying it. But for every issue, for every piece of toothpick that was bought from outside the country, or even manufactured here, was manufactured by equipments brought from outside the country who were dependent on dollar.
Right.
So the president he thought he had to take a decision. And we all agreed with him that this decision has to be taken.
Right.
Is the decision politically popular? He knew that it was going to cause uproar. He knew there was going to be dislocation. He didn't do it to make people suffer. He did it because the country needed to be saved from itself.
Interesting.
And then when he took that decision, he knows that there will be backlash politically. Now, this is where I said, am I getting into trouble for saying this? Because I haven't spoken to anyone. This is me thinking.
Yeah.
The president, as far as I'm concerned, is willing to say, you know what, if this decision has to be taken, it has to be taken, even if it's going to cost me politically. But this country needs to be rid of these issues that other people simply did not have the guts to do it all along.
Okay.
Now, for us as politicians, that's a problem. We don't want anything to happen to our platform, the APC. We don't want anything to make us politically unpopular. But I think hopefully that there will be a turnaround in the economy and in people's lives towards the end of this year. And hopefully it will be able to get us across the finish line.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. One last question I want you to answer as briefly as possible because of our time. Do you think the president should fight corruption?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Eh?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think he is fighting it?
I think he's fighting in his own way. Nigerians are not convinced that the fight is as frontal as it should be, you know. But I think he's fighting it because he's fighting it through prevention, not necessarily after action.
Yeah, yeah. Because just like you said, Nigerians don't see it because I think corruption is a big.
No, it's a big deal.
Problem. And when we're talking about,
it's a big deal. But corruption is a byproduct of indiscipline.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree.
We have raw indiscipline.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think what the president is trying to focus on, which his handlers have not communicated very well, is that he's focusing on indiscipline towards government resources and Nigeria as a general. But I think the word corruption is what people want to hear, that we are fighting it, and the president needs to say it clearly.
Excellent, excellent. Because you know it's a big elephant in the room.
Absolutely.
Anytime we talk about the future of the country and what has happened. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, I wish we could. We have to continue this conversation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, because it's a very important one. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail because we won't relent. It means that Nigeria will win. Thank you for watching Inside Sources. My name is Laolu Akonde, and I'll see you at the next edition by the grace of God.